Hi, welcome back, good old boys. Bog beef.
Now, Mark,
This this one's gonna be rough for you. Pretty much everybody who listens to our show is a big Bernie fan. You're gonna want to turn this off because we're gonna be talking about. Jay Z said, "I'm a businessman, not a businessman," and we're gonna be talking about Bernie like that. We're gonna be talking about Bernie, the movement, Bernie,
the brand.
yeah. So we're not talking about the sweet guy from Vermont. We're talking about Bernie, the movement. He was representative politics. So a politician is not themselves. Okay. So set the scene. We're here. I don't know how long we got till people start pulling on levers.
Like 4 months.
Okay. So we're in this moment where Bernie has this heart attack. A lot of people say it's game over.
Mhm.
In your little group DMs and stuff, people were saying, "That's it, that's ball game." And he sort of comes out of it, and then the squad throws him a lifeline. Most of the squad, by the way, Tlaib or whatever, she said she needs to meet with him. She wants some concessions first, which is basically what we're going to be talking about. So they throw him a lifeline. Oh, the libs are triggered now. Okay, he's back in the ball game. In the little videos they were posting, Ilhan posted this guy. He's transcending the identity politics. They're like we're all in for the Bernie stuff, right? You got any initial thoughts, Merrick?
Yeah, one thing I've noticed in the last few days, especially with the endorsement that he got from the squad, was that people were thinking about this in terms of the 2020 elections. I get why that's important. It's not nearly as important as what's going to happen to the Bernard Sanders movement once he's gone, once he's retired, once he's, shuffled off the mortal coil. What's going to happen with this movement that he created? And I think since 2016, since basically he conceded in the last primary, the party's been making moves to make sure that they're going to corral most of those people into the Democratic Party proper, and a lot of people are going to be left on a lot of people who we know are going to be left on the outside looking in.
The goal in politics is really to establish a essential coalition that's large. It's very large because that's the only way you can get out of sort of sectarian goodies and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, well, these guys are my coalition. I'm gonna give them this stuff, and we give them that stuff, and we're gonna punish the bad guys. Because if you get a big ass coalition, if you get a coalition that's like 60% plus, you just have to do universal reforms at that point. That's when your sort of game changing reforms happen. And they don't go away, by the way. So Canada and Australia, they all had these big moments where some hero swept in. He had a big ass coalition and he changed the country forever with basically universal health care. This was the Bernie mission. Okay, so you look at 2016, you had Bernie come in with this big ass coalition look to him. Now he's not even he wasn't even Democrat. It's like, I'm not here to do the gun control and the abortion and stuff like that. We're just going to do this big ass coalition movement. Anything where you're trying to pull on a lever and move things from the corporate sector to the public sector, it's really difficult. You need a big fucking coalition, and it's really difficult to do. So there's all kinds of people that are paid shit tons of money to stop that from happening. Identity politics is the main way that they try to stop that, because you balkanize the people, and then, yeah, I need these goodies, and you can talk about crab in the bucket or whatever. This is so. There's all these people. There's a lot of people that's all they want to do whenever they see this guy Bernie Sanders, who was presenting a new tune. That 2016 that's sort of a transformative move. That's sort of a transformative guy. This is like someone who's going to come in, and when they leave the presidency, it still go back to normal, but things will be different. You're talking about the medical, the medicine is like 30-40% of the GDP.
Yeah, you can't just think of it as a political issue. It's an economic issue, and you get to always have to ask where the money is. How do you negotiate with these people when pretty much anything that you would offer them is going to cost them trillions of dollars?
Yeah, great account. Second City Bureaucrat on Twitter. Dude's fucking genius. He said like a month ago, he's like, Bernie, fire your fucking millennial staff. Tell them how you really feel about guns and immigration. Fucking win this thing.
Well, yeah, because he's crawfished on both guns and immigration. If you go by the stuff that his campaign's put out.
So what's left of that transformative candidate now?
what's left of 2016 is healthcare policy, which is good, and he's the only guy up there who's going to talk about the working class. He's the only one that's going to do that. I guess Biden may have before he went completely senile, but I don't think Biden was sincere about it, and I think Bernard was. To me, the bigger question is what's different and why is it different?
Democratic politics, it doesn't, people always like make fun of the hereditary nature, like in terms of Clintons and stuff. Democratic politics has to be hereditary. People talk about things like political economy and stuff like that, what they mean is clients and patrons. The problem is when you make a deal, when you give a lot of money to some guy that's like 80 years old, you don't know if that's coming back to you. You got to make a lot of deals to get shit done in Washington. Bernie really never named a successor. And it was kind of supposed to be AOC. She sort of pulled away, and then now she's here back with this guy on the map and making him beg for it.
I don't entirely agree. Did she pull away?
Yeah.
I think what happened was she opened her mouth and people were like, ugh.
I mean, where's she been from like now since like a year and a half ago?
She's been a celebrity, baby. The endorsement thing, who cares? That's so. I get what you're saying, but I think that people's attitude about her have changed rather than necessarily her behavior's changed. Now she did make some mushy mouth things about, oh, I'm gonna wait until the primaries to make an endorsement, and I get that, but she didn't even do that in the end. She actually did endorse it.
Yeah. In this moment where people were like, he's done. He's on CNN looking purple. I mean, they bullshitted that, but I mean, we have friends who were diehard Bernie people who were saying, "Oh, that he's toast."
My problem with the squad and the endorsement and has been the attitude change towards them that you could see almost overnight, which is that a lot of people who were on the left as compared to just regular progressive people, I guess, they soured on them over the last few months, and for good reason, because they said a lot of dumb shit and harmful things, not just dumb. Overnight, now they've done this, which I'm sure electorally this will help him at least a little bit.
I think it'll help him a lot.
The problem is what's going to happen when he's gone.
Yeah.
Are these people going to swoop in and take over his brand?
Yeah.
And I think, yes, that's the answer. That's exactly what they plan on doing.
Right. So they held out a hand at this moment where he was in deep shit, which is totally different thing than would have been if he comes out the gate and they say, "Hell yeah, Bernie Sanders, it is socialism. We're gonna stick it to the fat cats in D.C." Which is not what they did. He's indebted to them now in a way that's not good.
Yeah, but I don't think this is going to change what he's going to do at all. I don't think so. I think he's going to continue to do what he does. But like I said, the problem is he's an old man. He's not going to be around that much longer on the political scene. They're very young, and they have backers. They're popular. And I know they're unpopular too, but there's a section of people who fucking love them. And they'll be mad about them endorsing Bernie, but they're not going to remember that shit 3 years from now.
No.
There's no Clinton machine to get like if this is 2016, you could say this would be a huge dangerous move for them to make because kind of like what's happening with Tulsi now, there could be people looking for retribution for crossing them. I don't think that Warren has anything like that. Kamala Harris is dead in the water, and the Clinton machine backed her, right?
Yeah.
Like who's left that's gonna punish them for doing this? I think that they're stepping into a vacuum, or they're setting themselves up to where they can step into a vacuum in the very near future.
Yeah. Everything comes down to these PMCs,
which means professional managerial class. If you
been loving these takes all week, huh?
Well, so the big new take was they were revisiting the. How do you pronounce the author's name?
Barbara Ehrenreich.
So they've been going back and reevaluating Barbara Ehrenreich. I I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. So, so they've been going back and like they're
Come on, I mean, you got a square head now.
not that square. They're going to go back and bring introduce the PMC 2.0. I guess to make sure it includes everybody but them in their social cast.
As far as I know, it was just Amy Therese that got them fucked up on that shit. Just by posting that shit from the '70s where she's talking about. Okay, the deal is when you vote on stuff, people who are big in the media, they have way more power than it seems like. And they're like, oh, I'm eating ramen noodles here in Brooklyn. It's like, yeah, but you control the narratives.
Yeah, well, my bit on this when I would talk to these people, just to okay, that's fine. I feel bad for you. Now tell me what your dad does.
Or just point me to his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, exactly. He's pretty. What company is he president of?
Yeah,
Because that's the big difference. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're smart enough to understand why that matters. But there are people who genuinely that we talk to on Twitter who genuinely don't understand the difference between I'm making $25,000 working as an intern at a media company versus I'm making 20 grand mopping floors. The difference is you can't go to your parents for help. You can't get them to pay your rent if you're the latter.
yeah. These people would kill themselves before they were stacking cans of Dinty Moore for 35 grand a year.
Yeah, and even if you're where you were doing that, when you don't have anything that you can fall back on, and I can't even say this about myself because modest means that I do have family. If I went busted tomorrow, I could probably drag my sorry ass back and live with my mom or something.
They're hard on the tail of abolishing that, by the way. So,
But yeah, you could do that. There's some people don't have any. They don't have. There's no net underneath them to catch them when they fuck up. And it's almost it's. Yeah, I don't know if we even need to go. It's just common sense, right? Like everybody knows this.
all politics is loyalty and common sense.
Good point. So okay, that's a good point.
My mama said I ain't got no common sense. I might could use some.
So maybe that explains why people like you and I get our feelies hurt when Bernard turns around and says sings a different tune about say gun control or immigration.
I think immigration is just done in the Democratic Party, right? Maybe Tulsi, but Tulsi's
Tulsi's not a Democrat. Tulsi's not a Democrat.
yeah.
Tulsi's that's what a Republican's going to look like in like 10, 15 years, maybe sooner.
Yeah.
So those people, when they complain about her like not being a Democrat, et cetera, they're correct about that. That's absolutely fair complaint. Now, of course, that makes her better, not worse. But
also, the thing about this, she deviates so much on. I think she's great, by the way. The thing about her deviating so much on foreign policy, honestly, at this point, I don't think you can vote your way to a different foreign policy.
No, of course not.
Yeah, that ship sailed for me. I'm pretty sure the intelligence services run all that shit.
There's like different factions, and you can pick your poison. Which country do you want to invade, or what you want to fuck with? And like we had a choice in 2016 between Syria and Iran, and we elected the fuck with Iran guy. This is a hot take by I think Nate Silver or somebody. Somebody there were people that we follow were mad at. He said that voters don't care about foreign policy. And I think that's actually probably true, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't anymore. I don't think I can. I don't think it can be influenced. I've heard people who are pretty radical say that the Iraq war invasion wouldn't have happened if Bush didn't get elected. I hope that's true.
Maybe we would have gotten something else if not that. That's what I think. So okay, we're back to immigration. Bernard hasn't totally flipped, but he was very famously in 2016. He called Open Borders a Koch brothers project, which delighted us. It's like that was not something that you were hearing from, especially from politicians on the Democratic side. But you didn't really hear anti-immigration politicians say that either. They would go at it from like a aspect of crime or keeping society racially homogenous or whatever.
Right.
I don't think he's walked that back, but he's made some moves since then that kind of seem like he's coming around to compromising with the party. He pay lip service to the abolish ICE idea.
There's two ways this goes. First of all, I don't know if you've heard this. Richard Spencer, so this would be the guy, most CNN analyst, by the way. Great pickup for them. CNN, they pissed me off a little bit before, but when they did that, they doctored that shit and make Bernie purple. Because you turn purple like when you're imminently about to have a heart attack. So he said the main thing we need to do to restrict immigration is to pass universal health care. Because then there'll be this financial interest and people will say, no, don't come here. You're going to crash our universal health care. I don't know if I buy that, but I assume that
he's giving it some thought.
Yeah, and this is like his actual intention. Like this is what he really wants.
Well, and I think if I'm not mistaken, in Canada, if you immigrate there and you're not a Canadian citizen, you can like buy into their healthcare system by paying. You pay like cash money and you can buy your way into it. Now, I was told this. I don't. We're saying it on a podcast, so please don't believe it. But like, can a person from Guatemala who crossed the border, they're not going to be able to do that.
This gets complicated. So one thing about that Canada thing, by the way, like who's the immigration guy for Trump? Everyone hated
Stephen Miller.
His alt-right immigration plan was basically to copy Canada's, where you just take in all you want is like cardiologists and computer programmers and shit. I sort of know someone who they took a flight to Canada and they had a professional camera equipment with them. And they sent their ass back to the States and said, you need paperwork before you come over here because you might be taking a Canadian's job. So like, that's like, that'd be extreme white supremacy here. Did you see Warren's immigration plan?
Yeah, it was basically a turnstile, right?
Basically, you need to commit murder to get sent back.
I guess our boy Bernard would call for like a moratorium on deportations. And at the last debate, I saw a clip someone posted where they asked everyone who thought it should be a civil crime instead of a criminal crime to cross the border illegally. And he was one of them that raised his hand.
Yeah, well, this is a massive turnaround. See, to me, immigration is just a class war thing. It's what it's always been. And so...
Yeah, I see who you follow on Instagram. You're not fooling anybody.
Yeah, so if you're upper class and you want to come here and you want to take a PMC job, come on aboard. Let's do this.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Open borders for everybody with the PhD.
Yeah, journalists, English professors. We want every single one of you bastards. And but if you sling drywall or something, I don't know about that.
Yeah, we have enough pipe fitters. Maybe we could chill out on that a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be fine. So the Democratic Party is basically just making it dogma that you can't deviate on guns. You can't deviate. Think of a Democrat right now that's deviant on gun control. I don't know any anymore. Maybe you do there in Virginia. What about that little crazy guy? Talking about choking people out and shit.
Wait, who are you talking about?
The guy who wrote the book about Scott Sirish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he retired from politics after he went on stage in 2016, and this is my favorite thing from 2016. If you don't remember it, it was great. So they were asking all the Democratic candidates, tell me about a time you had to deal with adversity, or someone attacked you, and everybody gave the stock stories.
3 VCs come out of the trees.
Yeah, he said a Viet Cong threw a grenade at me, and it didn't work out too well for the Viet Cong. We're talking about Jim Webb, by the way. He worked for Reagan as a Republican and then switched to the Democratic Party. He's out of politics now. I don't think Jim Webb would be persona non grata in the 2020 Democratic Party.
He couldn't swivel his head, right?
I think that was McCain.
Oh yeah. Okay, I can't think of it. They just made it. They're just making it dogma. All these things. They're these fucking culture wars things like abortion.
Bernard is probably the most prominent Democrat who deviates the furthest because he still, as far as I know, says that this is an issue that it plays out differently if you live in Chicago than if you live in Maine.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He does. I think he doesn't want them to be able to sue gun companies when somebody shoots up a school, right?
I don't. That doesn't even make sense. You know, it's
Yes, Beto probably wants to execute the the board at Ruger.
yeah.
I know you shouldn't have to explain why this isn't. This should be important to people, especially there are a lot of people who don't even necessarily believe that electoral politics are the way that you achieve the things that they want.
Barrel the gun, baby.
Yeah, pretty much a wrap on that. You'll get them back eventually, but you're gonna have to wait until your country's like Brazil level shitty before that happens.
Everyone's woke on individual rights now. Like it's this fucking Carl Schmitt thing. All of a sudden, every motherfucker now wants to tell you about some Carl Schmitt. 90% of these people, I'm sure they haven't read it, and all they're doing is they're just like citing this fucking Nazi guy to tell you that might makes right. It's like you don't need to do that, dude. You can just say might makes. You don't have to. We don't need all this pomp and circumstance. You're never going to get me off the individual fundamental right to defend yourself. Someone kicks in the door at 3 a.m. or you hear a bump in the night. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be coming off that. Not for any kind of collective that I can think of.
If you to take that away, you would have to have you have to live in a community that collectively protected itself some way, or like the right. Let's talk about trust levels in society. Like you have to live in a very high trust society where you could say, well, we don't need you to do that. We don't live in a high trust society. The exact opposite, and it's only getting worse. Like as time goes on and we continue down the path that we're going, unless you're one of the people who will be wealthy enough to live inside of like a gated community, you're gonna want to be able to defend yourself, whether that means with a gun or just, as you said, this is not just about guns. There's a lot of like duty to retreat laws, and they're kind of turning the whole idea on its head that where someone can be trying to hurt you and you are liable for what you do to them.
Yeah, I'd rather you take my gun and not. I'd rather not have a gun and not have and not be on that duty retreat bullshit. Fuck it, give me a fucking frying pan. I don't care. I mean, I'm not like you can't make it a law that I'm gonna have to run away. From what I understand, even in those places, even when people pop somebody with an illegal gun, they almost always get off, which a little bit faith in humanity. Which so all these, and you know what this is. This is all political spoils. And this is all the kind of shit that you get to swing back around when you don't have big coalition politics. You want big ass coalitions, and they don't really last because of balance of power, because it just it becomes it's complicated to get into, but basically it's too advantageous to bust up a big ass coalition. But big ass coalitions can last for an election cycle or two, and when you do, that's when you change the game.
And that's what Sanders tried to do in 2016. And maybe if you hadn't been running against Clinton, if it had been anybody else, maybe you could have done it.
What a weird campaign that was. Remember at the beginning, there was all this gentlemanly stuff at the beginning
Yeah.
where he was like, "This guy's just going to honorably like bring out the diamond dinner," and then like halfway through, he's like, "Well, fuck it, I could win this thing."
I maintain ever since that after the election and after she lost to Trump that he should have gone scorched earth on the party. He was very conciliatory towards them. Stuck Perez into the DNC chair to basically despite him, shit on him and blamed him for losing the election. They didn't treat him like the way you would treat someone who was right about everything. And Bernard would have. I guess it's stupid to get counterfactual about this. Counterfactuals aside, been in a fair campaign against Trump where his own side didn't try to hamstring him, which they probably would have. I'm sure he could have gotten the couple 100,000 votes he would have needed to become president. They didn't treat him the way that you would treat someone like, oh, we should listen to this guy. He should have gone scorched earth on the party. He should have threatened to go third party if they screwed him again. And the new rules for the primary, if he can't get a majority of votes, it's going to become cigar smoke backroom deal. And I got to think that if he gets a plurality of votes but not a majority, they're going to screw him again, right?
Oh yeah, everyone always hates on the quote unquote snap to the center when the general begins. Nothing would be more glorious than not even snapping the center, but just casting off all that shit and just saying, "I'm just here to fucking chew bubble gum and pass Medicare for all."
I mean, he might do that. The problem with him isn't even him. It's that what are the people around him going to do? And I'm most concerned about what's going to happen after he's gone, because I think that he's going to hand the keys over to these people, whether he intends to or not. And people like Ocasio Cortez and Ilhan Omar are dangerous. They have dangerous ideas, and they very openly, publicly say them. They don't even hide it. That shit that AOC said about people having a right to immigrate to the country because Hispanic people or because Latin American people are indigenous people. That's nutty for a sitting representative to say, especially one that has had so much clout and will have so much clout. You don't want to hear that.
We probably have a couple listeners that are on the right, Republicans and shit, or people that are just sort of looking for wherever the wind blows in terms of class politics, class warfare type stuff. We saw this response in the wake of the Bernie movement from the right with these characters like, first off, like Trump, which is not really panned out all that much. He's done a little bit of stuff with like refrigerator factories and stuff, and it's hard to figure out posturing in this way. That's not new. This isn't. He doesn't posture like free market guy, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's new, but it's old because he's posturing as like in a paleocon position. But you haven't seen that in our lifetimes, really.
No. Now you got these guys like you seen Hawley come out. He's doing just straight up class politics. Who's the boy on Fox?
Tucker.
Tucker. Of course, he's the main dude with this, and he's obviously someone's going to pick up whatever he's doing and move it into electoral politics. He's saying capitalism isn't working for us anymore. Talking about class. He straight up just talks about class warfare now. He had on our girl Angela Nagel a couple times. Either way, if you're into that, you're going to be losing out with the death of the Bernie movement if it does die. The dream scenario, what you want is both sides competing for the working class vote. You're not, if the Bernie movement dies and then one side is just, and let's say the Democratic Party just goes on all in on id poll, the Republican Party doesn't have to give you shit. The Republican Party will just say, okay, well, we're just white married people, whatever. Maybe pick up Asians or something. Then we're back to politics kind of dies, and then we're just playing sectarian games.
It's not so much I'm worried about the movement dying because it's not going to die. It's going to continue on. My fear is that they'll take the rhetoric that he used, because maybe I might be naive about this, but it seems to me, judging by how he's acted his entire life, that Sanders really believes this stuff. I think he really does. I think he really does care about the working class and wants to make life better for us. I really do. And that's not something I'd say about any other politician. But when he's gone, people are going to take that rhetoric and take that trust that people had in him, and they're going to weld it together with identity politics. And they're going to use...
Can't we do both? Can't we do both?
Exactly.
Can't we do both? Is it too much to ask? Can't we do both?
Look, let's be upfront about this when we're talking about on the Democratic side of it, like the progressive rad lib. They would love, and they have attempted for quite a while now, to make you think of legitimate working class as like Black and Latino people. Now there's another side. There's like the upper middle class, traditional liberal types who now, when they say working class, it's like a slur to me. And we're talking about the bad kind of white people.
Mm-hmm.
But people, I don't think your Ocasio Cortez, your Ilhan Omar, I don't think they're doing that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, a lot leftists would say working class concerns are concerns for people of color because people of color are, percentage-wise, they're more working class than white people are. That's true.
Money's green.
But what the squad and the people like that are going to do is flip that around and say that concerns for people of color, i.e., identity politics, is a working class concern. And there's a big difference between those two concepts. Like one's the polar opposite of the other because you're like you said, you're splitting up, you're cutting the pie into quarters and playing it against each other. And the whole point of Sanders' movement that made it so dangerous and so exciting, because I told you this at the time, I know people who were hardcore conservative Republicans who donated money to Sanders' campaign in 2016 because they love that message. And it's a universalist message and it'll work. And that's exactly why they have to kill it. And this is one way that you can do it.
It's very American. America is built on universal, like Rome. It was not a native. It's not like, oh, we're just French people, right? We're just this like ethnic group. Rome was supposed to be different. It was, oh, we this universal thing. And this was what America was supposed to copy. So universalism, that's very American. We like that stuff.
Yeah, I believe the President of the United States said this recently, and people were very confused about what he meant.
Yeah, that's such bullshit, isn't it? Yeah, all the fucking buildings are fucking modeled after Rome. There's the fucking George Washington thing and the fucking toga. This shouldn't be fucking hard to understand.
It's not hard to understand. They're lying because when it's convenient for them, they recognize that there's such thing as quote unquote Western civilization. When they're attacking it and celebrating victories over it, it's a real thing. When someone says something like this, it's it's a dial tone. What are you talking about? This is crazy, made up. Nabisco invented this concept to sell cookies in 1932.
Like when ISIS would attack America and shit, they would show infographics and shit like the Colosseum blowing up. Why would that make sense? How is that figured? They know what's going on.
Hardcore history podcaster Dan Carlin, I'm stealing this from him. I'm just going to admit it up front. And he did when he talked about Greco-Persian War. It was a quote. I wish I could remember. It was one of those famous British statesmen of like the 19th century, and he said that the battle of the Battle of Marathon or the Battle of Plataea was the most important battle for the British Empire in history. It's something that happened. Yeah, I mean, but you get the point. It's like this is you can trace a direct line from that to here. Now, everybody would admit, when even people our age, somebody in my late 30s like me, who went to school, we were taught this like American history book. Like the first chapter wasn't even about settlers in Jamestown. It was about like
Greece.
I guess it's important. It's important to neuter that because
you knew who Diogenes was when you were like a fucking teenager. You're like this is like if you're gonna be a nerd, you need to be like this motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, history of the Peloponnesian War. Like I read that when I was a teenager, and I wasn't particularly smart. That was just like that was the idea. If you were going to become a smart person and like a upstanding citizen, you needed to read Plato, you needed to read Thucydides, you needed to know that stuff because that was the Western canon, right?
When the Iraq War went down, the main debates for the morality were about Thucydides and
the Melian dialogue, yeah.
Yeah, and Just War from St. Augustine. This is America. We do universalism here. This is what this is in the sauce here. It's just so deeply un-American.
Ooh, that's going to be controversial. Yeah, I agree. That's the only way America can function, at least. Or you could say that, especially the America of 2019. That's the only way we can survive is with like a group identity, right? Everybody can agree with that, can't they?
What you mean?
Whether or not IDPOL is anti-American.
It's the standard way things are done in the world. It's the way that like you need to take active measures at all times to stop it from happening because groups just have an easier time speaking to power and things like that.
Yeah.
Trad are going all in on everyone wants to white nationalists want to go all everyone wants to fucking give up on universalism.
Well, yeah.
I don't know anymore, but I want to believe that if you get these people alone, get a couple of drinks on them, that a little bit of them still believes in universalism. Everyone has dignity. America is magic and bird. America is everything.
I think if you go deeper than that, even these IDPOL people they have a universalist idea of themselves that people can, will embrace this ideology that venerates the differences in people, but they'll be united by that shared morality. You know what I'm saying? Even they're not admitting, yeah, we're just going to break things up, and we're going to organize a country like Lebanon, and it'll be sectarian. Even they don't say that. They have a dream of this like utopian America where you just take the old values of, I guess what they call legacy, what the right likes to call legacy America, and just replace it with this new stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree because they treat like this white supremacy like the way Wignats treat the Jews. This is just this outside virus that sort of interrupted our normal proceedings of universalism.
I don't know if they're still doing it. It was something that was popular a couple years ago that anything that was officially universalist was bad. Like that's just colorblind racism. This is chauvinism, whatever.
That's the fucking what a fucking evil thing to say.
I remember when that concept was introduced to me, I was still really pretty progressive, and I was like, well, I guess I can kind of see that, but it was even that was kind of a hard pill to swallow that you're going to be racist by just treating everybody exactly the same.
Yeah, you ever have any neighbors that are they're an interracial couple?
Yeah,
Could you imagine treating them like secondhand citizens?
it's going to sound provincial as fuck, but it's on brand. Someone sold their house, and one of my older neighbors is like, "Hey, did you see there's we got some new neighbors, and they're black." And then that was it. It's like there's nobody because nobody gives a shit because things don't things.
Yeah,
I think if people knew real racists, these people, if they knew what real racists are like and how they treat things, they're not worried about the nice like black family, middle class family that moves in next door.
no, they're one of the good ones.
Exactly. Like they'll literally say that. If you work in any working class, if you work in any working class job, you'll hear that shit constantly.
Yeah, yeah, it's hilarious, dude. Like, the last hard ass working class job I had doing manual labor, there was 6 guys working the shift. There was 2 white guys, 2 black guys, and two Latin guys. There was one. There was one of each that worked hard, and one of each that was a lazy fucker. That's kind of how Zizek talks about it all the time in terms of like there's sort of like the anti-racist way that things work, like when you map it out, when you think when university people sort of map things out how things should be, and there's the sort of way things work in real life.
A big part of that is intentional obfuscation. They'll say people treat X ethnic group badly because of racist and implicit bias. And a lot of times you just cover for we're going to take a group of people who are poorer on average than they're going to be treated a different way because they're poor. Period. And there are a lot there are a lot of reasons for that. And I'm sorry, as a person who grew up in a family where every man, like me and my cousin are probably the only adult men in our family who didn't spend at least a day in jail.
I can never return to Gainesville, Florida.
People treat you a certain way when you're like that, and it's not entirely unearned. If you saw me standing by your car and then next to me was like Malia Obama, you'd be making sure I wasn't stealing your hubcaps, not her. And there's a specific reason for that.
We're putting out an APB for meth labs in the neighborhood. We looking for brothers? We looking for Chinese people?
Exactly. So they use this as cover. And it's like, oh, well, people are treating that. This is going to be a controversial position for people who listen to this podcast. I apologize in advance, but a lot of y'all have some stupid opinions about the police and what they do and why they do it. And let me tell you, I'm sure a lot of policemen are racist. A lot of people are racist, but that's not why this stuff's happening. And you should know better because you're like a lot of you are like leftists, and this is about it's about wealth and poverty and people who don't have They commit crimes. That's what it would be so easy for you guys to just say that. And I understand why you don't, because you can have social consequences for that. I mean, we can be real here and admit that, right?
No, Herman Cain's kids are likely to rip off my stereo.
I had a friend. I had a friend growing up who was from a very poor family, like generationally poor. Like they lived in shitty. Their house got condemned by the town and like bulldozed against their will. And their whole family was like that, and they committed crimes and they did drugs. And the police would come. I would hang out with them, and I was from like a good working class. At the cusp of becoming middle class family, like, good Christian people, and I would hang out with him. And the cops would constantly bug the shit out of this guy for stuff that he didn't do, and I'd be with him there, and I knew he didn't do it. I had a police officer come to my home one time when I was a teenager and try to get me to say that he did something that he didn't do, that would have he was 18 at the time, would have gotten him, it was like a felony. And he was like, "Look, you're a good kid. You don't get in trouble. You don't want this going on your record." And he's like, "We know this guy. He's a bad guy." Well, you can guess he wasn't like he wasn't an ethnic minority. He was just a fucking hillbilly white kid. That's why this happens. And pretending otherwise, but it really hurts those people even more. And I know this isn't news to anybody listening to this, but you got to understand that people who are aligning themselves to take over the left are all in on this stupid fake view of crime and race and
police abolition.
Yeah, that's a great that's a great one. And people,
I'm woke on this now.
Yeah.
So like I don't like if you're listening to the show, like you're probably getting pretty heated right now. I'm just gonna. So here's the way I feel about this now. I do think cops can do some fucked up shit. And by the way, like if you do anything that like endangers a cop or whatever, they're gonna. I've seen it firsthand. They'll take you to the side and they'll beat the fuck out of you. They really will do that. That's sort of like a law, like an internal like code with that blue line shit they have. But the current left position on the police is it's bullshit. I think I could say I pilled you on the police. And I did it through a YouTube channel, and I'd recommend to anyone who's listening to this, you need to subscribe to Police Activity. They basically they record every shooting, every officer involved shooting that goes on in America, good or bad. There's some straight up executions down there. There's some horrible shootings on there where a cop is just killing someone that they don't have to. That said, you need to just tune into that for a while. You just check it out. Watch all the videos that are coming in there. Watch them in there. Watch all of them.
Yeah, they're equal opportunity with the videos they present. They'll show you the videos where the cops are fucking up and there's videos where the cops are shooting people who are trying to kill them.
That YouTube channel is a one-stop pill. But that said, I don't think this is ever going to get through to anyone. I think people are basically, you have one bad experience, or you're reading the news and you're like, Jesus, these cops are just killing people for no reason all the time. It just happens every other day. They're just killing people for no reason. Why are they doing this? And they're killing them in Berkeley. They're killing them in Lexington, Kentucky. They're just killing them everywhere. This is just an evil cop thing. So I've come around to I'm all in on police abolition.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
I'll be fine.
This is why I think it's bullshit. This is why I think it's a fake position. But I don't think that there's any movement to be made until we let Berkeley.
Yeah, you call a bluff. It is a fake movement. Those people aren't going to live in a world where That's like a libertarian. That's been a libertarian fantasy. Those people made fun of themselves like 10, 15 years ago, and libertarians were like, we don't even need police. We can have private forces doing it.
Sure.
So what's the woke model after police abolition?
I've never called the police. I've never needed the police in my life. And I've been in some hairy situations. I've told you about a couple of them.
Yeah.
They were all handled internally. I don't know if that's available for every person. I don't know if you're a single woman that's 36 and someone starts kicking on your door. I don't know if you have the tools to deal with that situation.
Yeah, do you know somebody you could call to come help you is a question. And
yeah, I did.
Right, yeah, but I've said this is a 36-year-old woman had that, and it's a rhetorical question. Like you said, they don't even believe this themselves. Like the only alternative is, and we have, like I said, we have a friend, and everybody knows who we're talking about, who is embedded deep in woke theology. Who people around this person have explained how what the world is going to look like when you get rid of the police. It was have people, basically social workers, who give people intensive therapy instead of putting them in prison. So what does that mean in practice? if you're police abolition, if you're actually abolishing the police, even if it was just to completely purge the police and reconstitute it, for them it would be like ethnic gangs, right? It would be like ethnic militias.
Yeah, oath keepers, but woke.
It's like that, like the new Lord's Army would be in charge of policing here where I live, and then like where you live, I guess it would be half La Raza and then half like the people with MFAs who are doing the neighborhood watch. Is that how that's going to work?
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, the reason why I brought up this loops around. The reason why I brought up that thing about your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You ever ask these people about how they feel about interracial dating?
No, that's a good.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They get real weird about it. They get real weird about that. And this is one of the things that's like it's kind of talked about a little bit. There's a little bit like whenever who's that guy that used to be a PUA dude, the black guy on Twitter?
Oh, Tariq Nasheed, right?
Yeah. Every now and then he'll just like he'll post a white guy and a black girl, and the comments will be like, "What are you doing, man? You don't need to be going after this." But it's sort of if you're going to try to have America that restricts interracial dating, it's not going to work out. I'm sorry, it's not going to work.
Well,
all these people would love to make that happen.
There's no plan for a sectarian America because I guess there is a plan. It's just not one that anybody likes to think about.
It's bullshit. It wouldn't work.
I don't know about that. Work how? Like make a good society? No, but I'm stealing your bit when I talk about Lebanon. It can be a thing, right?
Yeah, it can be a thing. I mean, Lebanon's, I don't know. Yeah, I've never been there. It seems like the sectarian stuff, it works a lot better in the Middle East when, it's
codified. It's in the law books. Like, this is for this person and this is for that kind of this group.
When we talk about Lebanon is sort of like what happens when you go all in on Idpol, where like these guys won the election. Well, they pass out all the government jobs to people of their whatever religion, race, whatever it is. That's how they do things there, and it sucks ass. But they've sort of like over time they've sort of mapped out a way to navigate that, and it's fucked up. You couldn't do it here. A Muslim has to be president, and a Christian has to be prime minister, and they like switch it out and stuff, and it's totally fucked.
Lebanon's internal strife has cost it dearly in the last like 30, 40 years. When you run things like this, people can exploit that. Now, in our case, it's not going to be outside force. It's going to be capital,
Sure.
which there are. I mean, this is not even hypothetical. This is already happening. I mean, this is part of what woke capital is, really.
All they want to do is balkanize. You're in little groups. It's easy to fuck with you, and you crabs in the bucket or whatever. And how about that Aisha Tyler?
What did she do?
What you think?
What do you mean? Like, what do I think of her?
Would you holler?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a problem.
Don't tell my grandmother I said that, but yeah, sure.
You're not set up for this new America. You're gonna have to fight back.
Well, yeah, men are. There's only one way men do not discriminate.